Welcome, everybody. Today is Monday, July 14th. This is the Facilities and Operations Subcommittee being held at the Administration Building. Deb, may I please get a roll call?
Mr. Agia?
Here.
Mr. Corey?
Here.
Ms. Larrabee?
Here. Salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 1.3, open meeting law. Pursuant to open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Deb, do we have citizens' input tonight?
We do.
Would you mind reading, please? Thank you.
Colin Dias, 560 Ray Street, Falls, Mass. 02720. Good afternoon. I am submitting the following citizens' input in the event that my right to participate in this meeting as protected by school committee policy is not respected. The concerns brought before this committee must be taken seriously and acted upon. Ensuring that students and staff are housed in safe school environments is not only a moral imperative, something that should be our first priority to help our fellow citizens. It is also a fiduciary responsibility. I urge the administration to write that word down, study it, and apply it consistently to the district's operations. Mold outbreaks should not be a seasonal occurrence. We should be using our resources to identify and eliminate the root causes of these issues in our classrooms. The administration simply needs to communicate clearly. What is wrong? What needs to be fixed? There is no price tag when it comes to the health and safety of our students and staff. We must collaborate more effectively with educators and facilities personnel to fully understand the scope of the problems we face. The recent communications received by this committee revealed two major concerns, in my opinion. One, a serious communication breakdown that stems from the top down. Two, a persistent mold issue that continues to impact the health of our educators. It is my hope that starting today, we begin to take real steps towards resolving both. As a committee member, I've experienced firsthand the lack of communication, including mold-related issues, in a recent batch of financials required to be signed off by the school committee. There was a bill for mold sampling. On May 25th, 2025 at 10:51 a.m., I emailed Dr. Tracy Curley requesting all mold reports from this year. The only reports the committee received back from the request were for Spencer Gordon. On May 30th, 2025 at 8:22 p.m., I followed up requesting that Dr. Curley provide a public update at the next meeting. That update never came. Superintendent Curley has removed me from signing off on financial batches and performing my duties of fiduciary oversight. That practice must cease and desist immediately, in my opinion. It is illegal. It is a criminal offense. Rather than removing me from signing off on batches for simply asking questions or requiring the necessary information to make informed decisions, I encourage the superintendent to work with myself and the rest of the committee. Let's uphold our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, and let's do the right thing. Let's improve communication with staff and the public. Let's work together to identify the root cause of these persistent issues and finally resolve them. The most importantly, let's ensure that no more students and educators are put in harm's way simply by showing up to work or coming to class. I hope today we can move in the right direction. Too many educators have gotten sick simply for showing up, and that doesn't sit well with this member. No more radio silence, half information being shared. The buck stops at the top. Also, where were these concerns once received by the administration shared with HR? Where is the HR director? Best regards, Colin Dias, Florida School Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Cabral. You want some?
can't respond to
Yeah.
that.
not during.
You can if you want, I mean, if he wants to respond, you
No,
can.
I'll respect it.
3-1, discussion vote to refer a power purchase agreement for 2 solar energy systems. Who?
Sure. So, we've had quite a few of our buildings looked at for the feasibility of putting an array, whether it be on the roof, ground mount, or canopy. The 2 schools that are on this particular request are Fonseca and RPA. The areas in which a school, in the neighborhood in which a school is in, usually determines whether or not the power companies have the ability. So National Grid has the ability to take on that extra generation. We have other schools that have equal space or even more space to put systems on. But these 2 buildings currently are in an area that they can accept.
That was one of my questions,
Exactly.
why these 2 schools? Okay.
So the Fonseca School is gonna have a canopy in the parking lot, because the roof is not very conducive for solar, the shape of the roof. And RPA, the fact that it's a brand new roof, is very enticing both to us to have it there, the height, there's no shading at all on that roof, and also to the power company, because the roof is brand new and there are no issues with them putting a system on the roof. So these are, it's a power purchase agreement, so there's 0 cost to the district whatsoever. The district would, the purpose of doing it obviously is that the district will receive a discounted rate for electricity for the life of the agreement, which is 20 years. At the end of 20 years, we can have them remove them if we choose to, or we can enter into another agreement in 20 years with obviously a much more different system by then. The technology will be better. So that's where we stand. These 2 schools were chosen for those reasons. Number one, for our purposes, and they work well in both areas, and from the National Grid side, which is our power supplier, they're acceptable.
Any questions, Mr. Corey?
Yeah, so the consortium ensures that our rates would always be at a discount, right?
Right, so they're locked in, you're locked into the rate for 20 years. The rate does not move around in those 20 years, it's locked in of what we would pay. So basically what happens is the electricity goes back into the grid, and we buy X amount of kilowatt hours from the grid at that reduced rate. So it goes back in, it doesn't go into our system per se, it goes out and then comes back in at that discounted rate.
Okay, that all sounds good. What concerns me is the actual overlay on the roof and what that might mean for future maintenance issues moving forward, potential water leaks in an old building or anything like that on the roof.
So this particular roof is brand new, it's only 2 years old.
All right.
On all levels, there's 5 new roofs on the RPA roof. It's not going on a roof at Fonseca, so it's a carport, just like BCC. So that is sitting on its own brand new surface. They're ballast systems, except for the carport, which is actually attached. But on this roof, it's ballast, so it doesn't actually have any penetrations into the roof. It's weighted, cabled, and sits on top of the roof. Also, there's no penetrations that we would have to worry about later on.
And if your people have to do any potential roof work due to a storm or anything that could happen unforeseeable, those panels can be removed.
So there's a clause in all of this that they're, obviously natural disasters, things like that. But there's also a clause that they can remove the panels, do our work, and then they would put the panels back. The unit, we never own the system itself, so we don't have any maintenance on the system. If anything goes wrong, they have to repair it. They've got X amount of time according to the contract to repair it and get it back up and running, so that we don't lose our investment, so to speak.
Well, it
And the
also.
city would end up, so for instance, Durfee has pilot, and basically payment in lieu of taxes. So it's a payment, it's what we would, the city would get out of this. So everything is taxable, it's an energy generating system, so the city would collect a certain dollar amount at Durfee. I wanna say it's about $9,000 a year as a payment. I'm not quite sure what this one is yet, because we don't have the rates, to give that right now, but we can. And so the flip side is the city would have a piece of this, even though the electricity would belong to the school department.
Is there a potential for more of our buildings to qualify for something like this moving forward?
So, we have one piece of 2501 South Main that the roof is not, there's an issue on the roof. It's a strip on the roof that we have an issue with, so it's still under warranty from the company who put the roof on. So after that one is repaired, then that actually, if you look inside the package, that was one of the roofs that we also had another solar piece. The south end does not, may not, they're not quite sure whether or not they have the capacity to handle that back into the grid, but that is the other potential. There are schools like Bavaris, there's quite a bit of equipment up on the roof, so it makes it a little harder. We do have some other options at Durfee, again. The Pace Building, the old Nagel, it's got a brand new roof, a lot of opportunity up there also, to put something, that area is a little more difficult because the grid, because of BCC's canopy, that grid may be at capacity right now, so we're not sure about that one, but that parking lot has been talked about for canopies also.
So in your research on this, Ken, what's the overall vibe on this whole movement with solar panels on these institutional roofs?
Well, I way back when we were ready to do Durfee, we were at a disagreement with the city as to whether or not we should do it, and not whether we should do it through a PPA or whether we should purchase it. And at that time, my stance was that I didn't want to purchase it because then we own it, and we own everything that comes with it. Yes, we would be getting some tax credits that we could apply for other things, and we would be getting the actual production of the electricity straight and not paying for it, but we would also own it, no matter what happens to it. Every time
Damage,
something
right.
would happen, we would put into it. We also didn't have to put out one penny for the Durfee one, like we don't have to here. So there's no investment on our side. We're getting the reduction, and it also goes into our overall sustainability plan. So when we apply for grants like CEC and other grants within the Massachusetts, what Massachusetts offers, this always looks good on our portfolio.
And my last question is, I tried to understand this savings chop monies. I just don't, there's a lot of numbers there, but in the end, you're telling me that we're gonna save 63,000 each year?
Yes, so basically what it overall looks, if we're buying electricity right now, and I think the number might be as high as 22 cents per kilowatt hour, we would be buying it for about 11, maybe 10. So it's a 50% reduction in the cost of electricity, what we produce. So we're still gonna pay for everything above and beyond what we produce. If we're producing, let's say, $100,000 worth of electricity, we may be saving that on that particular piece, but we're not saving it on the rest of it. So we're still under the regular grid price for everything above and beyond what we can produce.
So this comes out on the positive side of the ledger then for us?
It does, it does.
So overall, you in your heart, you feel this is a really good move?
To be totally honest, if these companies would put it on every roof, I think that would be a feather in our cap.
Thank you, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Akin.
So why this company and what was the process to pick, are these the guys that work with the city already?
So
Why is this?
say they worked with us before, but they, there's a power purchase option in here. They've already bid this with the state, so it's kind of like state contract, but not quite in state contract. They've already done that work, the state has done that work, so this company, and there's a few others, like this company in other areas that are, doing this work.
So that's
this-
why you could pick them, because they
We
were
picked
on
this one
that
because
list.
and they were already on the list, right.
And they've done work for us before.
Durfee.
The, you had mentioned about the rationale for why purchasing wasn't your recommendation. If,
Yeah.
when we send this to the full committee, if you can give us a
I
one-pager
will.
on what that
I
is,
will,
because that's
sure.
gonna be a question everyone, I
Absolutely.
think, would ask, so we can get that ahead of time.
Yep.
The, it seems like, not a lot of money, but it's a no-brainer when we're not having any liability, I think, to collect. We're not gonna get rich off it, but
That's a big piece of it, it's not having one more thing to worry about, so to speak, but not having to do any of the maintenance on it, they do their own maintenance on it, they're up on the roof checking to be sure everything is working. Because of the state-of-the-art equipment, they're seeing what we see, so we can see how much we're generating. We're upgrading Morton, we're upgrading Sylvia and those others, so that the students can see what we're generating and they
Yep.
can use it.
that was another request would be when you go to the full committee, if we can get something like all solar in the district, where it is, what's the status, what is it working, is it not working? You know, we've heard all kinds of rumors, we put stuff up, we never connected them, all this nonsense. But ultimately, if we get something as a committee saying, here's all of our buildings, this is why we can do these, those is why we can't do those, it'll eliminate, I think, a lot of questions.
Sure,
I'd like to see the savings as well on there.
we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Are you,
Yeah,
Good.
okay.
you just mentioned a little while ago, Ken, about, well, we mentioned the hazard of a storm or whatever, but you said something that if it does go down, we're off the grid. Is that what you said? And we,
So we're on the grid, so basically National Grid for any, even if you're on you have a solar array on your home,
right,
you're never off the grid. Basically, your solar system is just sliding into the grid. So when the power goes out, the first thing that the power companies will do, if it's in your area, is they'll shut that. There's a disconnect switch, because they don't want anybody to get a shock. While they're working on the system, your system could still be running and putting electricity back into the grid, so if the power line was down near your house, it would be
Right.
live. They go down, they shut that down, so the system is designed to go back in. In some installations, it goes into the system. If we owned it, it would be different.
right,
It would go right into our building, and the meter would be spinning backwards.
right. So if there's something broken on the canopy
Yes,
and it's broken for a week and a half, does that cost us
it does. It
anything?
does, so, but they know it's broken.
Okay.
So they're losing as well as
Okay.
we're losing.
So it'd be in their best interest to
To
get
come
this.
out right away,
Okay.
which is probably more than we could possibly do in that kind of,
Right.
it's all they do.
That's what they do.
Right.
Do we have any experience with that at Durfee, in terms of anything?
We haven't been down at
Uh-huh.
Durfee. We were down at Sylvia. I remember the first time we had a windstorm at Sylvia, and they, I say it's ballast because there's a cable that runs across them, and then they weighted, usually it's cement blocks. We had a windstorm and they folded up like a deck of cards, like putting all the cards together, they all piled up against each other. In about a day and a half, they came
Back.
up, they did the whole thing, put it back on, you know, and figured out what was wrong with it. We haven't had issues with any of our other systems. Morton is the only one we own, and that was part of the MSBA project, and they haven't done one since. That was the first and last one that they did, because it's a lot of money.
Was that done first? Was that the first one that was done?
It was the only one we own. So
I
when
know,
they
but
built
was that-
one,
was
when
that-
they built it, it's the only one that came
Right,
in with a
okay.
new construction, yeah. So that one we do own, but it's already out of date. So we may
Motion to
wanna-
refer with the suggested, more information.
Second?
Deb?
Mr. Agia?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Okay.
Larrabee?
Yes. On to 3.2, a discussion and vote to refer the disposition of the Wiley School and the Stone School. Is this you again, Ken?
Sure.
Can I ask we take these separate?
Sure, let's talk about Sylvia first. I mean, not Sylvia, what I get rid
Wiley.
of Sylvia, Wiley.
Okay, so, Wiley, I wanna say it was 3 years ago, we put an SOI in to MSBA, to do work on the building. It's it's a one-unit building.
Mhm.
So, the first piece was, when we applied for that, the MSBA said that the building was already shuttered, and that they would rather not work on a building that is not occupied. They were looking for a building that was still active in the rolls. That building, if you look at similar buildings, we don't have any quite like that in the district, because most of them are 2 units that are left. But that building would be about a $7.5 million, maybe $8 million renovation. And we really would only have, again, a single unit building with the ancillary services that we need now. So square footage wise, it's really not a building that we can use. And again, the reason why they're both here is because they've been sitting for a long time, and the longer they sit, the worse they get. Wiley has a couple of roof leaks that we can't repair, that we've patched, and we continue to patch. And I'll talk about the other one when it comes up. So that building, again, is in a position that, could be put on the tax rolls.
It was definitely not cost effective every time that I've seen what you submitted and the money
Right,
for the return. The land is not, there's not a lot of land there, there's not a lot of building there. I think that one is a sort of a no-brainer. My question is, would we incur any expenses now if we turn that over as far as cleaning it out or anything, or is this just an as-is and the city's
I would say
responsible?
it's probably gonna cost us about $10,000 to empty it out completely. We don't have a lot in there, but what we have, we would have to dispose of.
So it'd be like our disposal and then they
Right,
take it out from there.
Exactly.
I think it's a no-brainer. I yield.
Mr. Corey?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back, my experience, I scoped out the Wiley about 10 years ago when I, previous to my retirement, we were searching for some potential spaces for an alternative setup, which ended up at the Dubuque on Oak Grove Avenue. Previous to the alternative high school moving to Dubuque, we looked at the Wiley, and I was actually there on grounds scoping it all out, and so I know what you mean. It's not a very useful building, and I think we brought it up again when we were looking for extra space for pre-K. We were talking about the potential use of the Wiley, because it's one of our buildings, but I think all of your research pointed out that the building's just too far gone. I agree, I'm all set. I just wanted to say that I've been there, I scoped it out, and there's nothing there for
Motion
us.
for Wiley?
Yeah, Wiley, there's nothing there. I yield.
Second.
Ms. Dragia?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yep.
Ms. Flaherty?
Yes. Okay, on to
Well-
3, oh, sorry, we still have
The other school.
the other school.
So.
This is on Stone School.
Yeah, the old stone at 1207 Globe Street. So we had looked at this site to put a modular building in for pre-K. Those numbers came in quite high for what we were looking to do, and that had nothing to do with the centerpiece, which was that building. The building again, it's a single unit school. That building requires more work. The roof doesn't leak, it's a slate roof, so we're kind of tight there. We see some daylight, but for whatever reason, I can't seem to find out why the water isn't coming in. It's like magic, I don't know. But that building is dry. The site sits on both Globe Street and on Pebble Street, which is in the back. Pebble Street's a funny street to get to, but it does have some frontage on Pebble also. The site, we removed an oil tank from that site, one of the last schools that had a buried oil tank, removed it. It was successful, no issues getting the ground was not contaminated in any way. So we removed that tank at the time to facilitate the construction. But as those numbers came in very high, we kind of caught the end of the good times that we had at Durfee, and then we got caught up in where prices went through the roof, close to $550 a square foot to build anything. So again, with this building, it's a single unit. The building does have space on the capital improvement plan that we sent in this year to the city. It had an 89 or an $85 million request for a school to be added in the next 5 years on that site. That would be on the city side if we were to do that. And again, that's 2030 before it would open. If we were to get picked right away to do that in the 2026 round of requests. So to renovate that building, again, it's a 1-unit school, so it's about $7 million to renovate that school to a single-unit school, and then whatever addition we decided to put to it, or if it was new construction. The building is on the historic register, so that one is a little more difficult to take down, and I'm not quite sure if there was a battle on that or not. The school has some history. The neighborhood is pretty tight, with the exception that that's a good-sized piece of land that's there. We don't have neighbor issues on Pebble Street, but it is a different kind of setup. If you were to put a bigger building on it, where parking would be an issue, and you may have issues with busing in and out. Our goal there was to bring buses through a loop system, cut in Globe Street and run out the back, and then parents would drop off the opposite into that building. So that was the plan back then. Again,
Corey?
So are you saying that there's no practical potential for that to become maybe a pre-K site in the future or something like that?
I would just say that I don't think that the prices are gonna go down, so we were quite a bit over what we thought we could do a pre-K site on that
What's the
particular
price you
site.
said, 69 million? Is that what you said?
89 million to put a building. That wouldn't be that would be a
A
full-blown,
full-blown school.
yeah, about 650 student. It would be comparable to a Fonseca, probably a Laterno kind of building. And if you were to try and salvage the other building, which I'm sure if an architect was designing that, they would try and use that as a centerpiece, box off around that building to keep that building, do a renovation of the building, and then a courtyard within there for playgrounds and stuff. That would be what I would say would be a vision that we could possibly have on that building. But again, that's the number that we would be looking at, is like 89.
Well, the city
Okay, so-
would be looking at
The
it.
city would-
So it begs a couple of questions for me, like the potential for mobile units on there, for extra classrooms or craft space for pre-K kids.
So
something
trailers,
like
yeah,
that.
so trailers have been an option. And, over the years, we've used that at Tansy.
Yeah.
Those are trailer units.
Yeah, they
we
work very
backed away.
well.
The thing, when we originally had done the research, between the modular unit and the trailer unit, there wasn't a lot of difference in price. At one point there was, but because of the need for a lot of districts, the modular unit is the preferred method because it's real construction.
Yeah.
But the trailer option is being used a lot in a lot of places.
Okay. Dr. Curley, what are the projected student numbers, maybe over the next 5-6 years? Is our student population growing?
It doesn't appear, just based on recent numbers, to be growing, that we wouldn't expect it necessarily to grow at the same rate. I think some of that has to do with the availability of housing in the district, but we also know that a lot of our families that are coming in they are doubling up, they're moving in with family members and things like that. So it's been difficult. You know that we had a demographic study done like 2023. Those numbers weren't correct. So, we paid, obviously we paid professionals to come in to do that kind of work, and they weren't able to accurately project for us even a couple of years in. Now, over time, it could be that maybe 5 years out, 10 years out, maybe things balance and it ends up in the same place. But right now, we haven't been able to use that in order to accurately project the numbers. And so the best we're able to do is take a look at what did increases look like this spring as opposed to last spring? What did increases for particular groups look like for a certain number of months, you know, 1 year to the next? But where we don't feel entirely confident in our local ability to really do that kind of projection, given that we got experts to do those projections
Sure.
for us and they weren't quite accurate. I
Sure.
just think the landscape has changed in a way that, you know, people weren't taking that into account a few years ago when that study was done. But we're not, you know, we're seeing the enrollment kind of slow down in a way that we're not, you know, we went from 1 year to the next.
Okay, so my question was
October.
born out of concern for maybe growth numbers and can our facilities hold, you know, the current numbers of students that we have, especially in the pre-K thing. And as Kenny mentioned, that building's on the historic register. So I just wonder if there's any preservation society grants that might be able to kick in to help us maybe potentially develop that building, if that building could be of any use to our district in the future years. That's all I'm thinking, it's just potential thought, you know?
I think the difficult part is in terms of the one unit buildings themselves being viable schools is difficult because that configuration isn't really what's needed, just in
Sure.
terms of when we think about how we resource buildings with coaches and things like that, like, it's not cost effective to put the same resources, a coach, a VP, with such a small number of students, right? So we'd be looking at a different configuration, where a 2-unit school seems to be kind of as small as we would go. I think physically the building for those buildings for pre-K don't work just because of the multiple floors that our, you know, our students would be on, and we're looking at littles that would really try to keep on a 1 floor, maybe 2, but certainly not on a 3rd floor of a building and things like that. So I think the 1-unit aspect of the schools kind of
It's limiting.
yeah, it limits us. And then I think the difference probably between, between Wiley and the Stone sites are the land options and what that would look like to use the mobile units, over at the Stone site.
Okay, Ken, so now that, you guys have vetted that situation pretty well, I know that we don't wanna take on the added cost of these 2 old buildings. No way that we can gift it to the Preservation Society at that point? Can we make a recommendation to the city to gift it to the Preservation Society?
Well, I would think, and a shot in the dark here is that building will make, I don't know, 12 to 14 apartments without changing the building and preserving it that way, putting it on the tax rolls. I mean, I don't know, gifting it, we tried the giving away to schools, we didn't, but the city did, and
Yeah,
I don't know how that worked.
It didn't
out.
work very well.
No, and some of them went on, there were buildings that did, survive.
I was only suggesting because this one's on the historic register.
Right. And I think that, there are success programs with that. I mean, the Lincoln School will be, apartments soon and open, and that building's preserved, and they left a lot of the interior woodwork in place. So I think there's a way to capture that. I just don't, for us, it's different, because trying to modernize some of the buildings, you take away some of that. We
That's
have no
fine.
choice but to take away
That
some of
answers
that.
all my questions. Thank you, I yield.
Yeah, I just think, I remember years ago, we were gonna do a Administration South Parent Center
Right.
/ something on bus route, like that site being something that we could use. I think we need to look at the Pace Center currently, pre-K, and it's one of the other things about where's that going, but I wouldn't necessarily wanna dump this yet until we can figure out where that goes, cause
Sure.
I, for one, have some ideas on doing something different
Mhm.
with the Pace Center, or where we currently have pre-Ks, where I think we could probably open that as an office a lot cheaper than 6 million.
I think the only problem we may have, and I agree, that there are other options. I think the only issue we'll have is that it's been vacant for a long time, so we're gonna be forced to put an elevator in that building if we change occupancy, and we will be if we're turning it into an administration building. So we will have to make an investment. I'm not saying it's not worth it, because we have parking, we have off-street parking. As you just said, it's on a bus route. It does have some options, and there's no urgency,
So that's where I would go, where I don't think we've been back and forth with the plan, we're gonna have a full plan, we're gonna have a long-term plan, short-term plan, right now we don't have many plans.
Yep.
But the other one with the Pay Center was basically, we're a year out anyway, because fire suppression and that, so I'd rather table this for now, this one. Go, let you see, not take it off, then
Yep.
you all do your research and say, well, it'll cost us X dollars, but we'll have a more centrally located Pay Center, where we're gonna put special ed if we move them out of the other place, before we start renovating the Pay Center,
Sure.
to be half a pre-K, maybe we renovate it to be a full pre-K, and you maximize the cost of the people getting in there, so I make a motion to table this particular one. Unless you wanted to speak first. Do you have any questions first before I make a motion?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
so is there a basement in this?
There is.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's the capacity of the basement? Like how?
So as part of it was a gym / cafeteria, there's a boiler room down
Right,
there. There are some rooms that were used, but it has full windows, not full windows, but it's got like some of our buildings have. So it's not like it's a basement.
Right.
You know, it does have walkout stairs to get to the schoolyard part.
Right.
But it is a usable basement, so whether we used it for something or not, we wouldn't be able to add we could probably in that building go pre-K to 5
Right.
and have enough classrooms with some ancillary stuff, but that's all you would have. You'd never have enough to do a dual.
Right. A double classroom
Right.
kind of.
Right.
I'm fine.
Motion table.
Second.
Mr. Agia?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Ms. Lowry?
Yes. On to just an update of the Pace Center. Mr. Pacheco, is that you again?
Yeah, I just left you, sent
Yep.
in with the packet a brief, the roof replacement is finished. We've just wrapped up all of the punch list items on it, everything that we were concerned with was taken care of. They found a couple of other things that they took care of. Skylights were all removed, which were a major headache for us as far as leakage in that building. And the way they were closed off was permanent, so it's not just a fix. It was permanent. No structural repairs were needed on the roof, so fortunately, as much as that roof did leak, it didn't cause us any major structural issues inside. Whatever they needed to do, they did. And the new roofing system is obviously insulated to the new code, so the building is now more energy efficient with the roof piece. Fire suppression, they're just about ready to mobilize. I've been back and forth with seeing the submittals coming in and out of items that requesting information on, whether it be how to hang things, what the ceiling heights were gonna be when we're finished. The complicated piece there was the auditorium, because there's a huge area up above the ceiling that has to be protected, and there's a lower area where the seating is. Backstage already had fire suppression, but that all needs to be upgraded to today's standards. So that building, with the exception of what we are going to use, was a difficult piece of this. So we're going back and forth now, almost 3 weeks, on trying to get all of these answers ironed out in a workable way. The inside of our areas are gonna be kind of the same way, because we don't want the monstrous ceilings in those pre-Ks. So there'll be an area that's gonna be fire suppression sprinkled up above and protected below where the students are. So that's a kind of a double system, so we've been working all of that out with the contractor. They were informed that there was gonna be a dual system, so we're now trying to get it down to where we actually need the stuff, and then we'll do whatever we need to do after the fact. So that piece on the fire suppression, we're expecting them to mobilize, I would say, hopefully by the end of the month. that they will be there getting started. It's a company that we've dealt with at the Watson School, the general contractor.
Completed at the end of the month or starting the end?
Starting
Yeah,
at the
because
end
it
of the
takes a
month.
while, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that we'll be pushing December to have a
Mhm.
complete system and operational. The water service fortunately is the adequate size. We have to put a pump on it because it doesn't have enough pressure, too close to the tank.
Mhm.
We don't have the pressure required, but we are in great shape as far as the service itself, so there'll be no digging, so to speak, bringing in a new service. And the pre-K classrooms, we're starting to remove the wooden flooring where the two construction sites were. It's a little block wood floor that sits there. It sits on concrete, but all of that has to be removed.
Mhm.
We'll pour a slab on top of that, and then we'll be ready to build classrooms in those two back areas. We're currently moving materials that are in there, in different areas of that building, and setting up the pre-K storage for all their supplies and the paste storage for all of their supplies, so I can empty the upper deck also to make room for that construction. So that we've got some pretty good movement right now, and we're working in that area ourselves with our own in-house people.
Any questions? Mr. Corey?
I just wanna say, I have a lot of faith in our in-house people to get the job done. When you mentioned the Watson School just now in your description, and I just wanna say as a source of pride, I went to the Watson School, and I remember the condition of that building before you and your crew got your hands on it, Mr. Pacheco. And so when I'm coming back home in my travels, and sometimes even in the early evening, and I see the condition of that school right there on Eastern Avenue, looks absolutely beautiful. The windows, the lights, the landscaping on the front Eastern Avenue side look absolutely beautiful. Thanksgiving time, I was there delivering baskets from my church to the residents in that area, and I was downstairs and did a full inspection of the basement, and I understood what the basement looked like before as to what it looks like now. And with that new cafeteria down there, looks absolutely wonderful, you know, and the new boilers. So, I mean, you're to be commended for the overall work that you did on that building, and I know that this building is gonna probably come out great too. That's all I wanted to say. I yield.
Isaiah?
The, on that similar note, one thing that bothers me about that building is the flagpole condition. It's rusted, and if we could please get somebody that, like, I know it's probably on somebody's radar,
It is.
but the grounds or something, like, it's rusted, it looks,
So we have some outside lighting that we're changing, so we're waiting for a lift. So once we start putting that lighting in around that building, then we're gonna paint it,
yeah, just,
come down. It does.
to what Mr. Corey said, there's been a lot of renovations, and we got an eyesore of thing.
Absolutely.
The 750,000 that the city had, there was some controversy of whether they had it in opera funds or not, and the city council was on their thing, but we didn't know. The mayor said they got some money, like, I was under the impression, the mayor was indicating that they had some money for us to do the pay center, and I don't necessarily think that was true. I think it's the fire suppression, which is their responsibility as the city with the roof and that. Is there 750,000
I don't know
extra
the
for them
number,
to?
but I believe that we were told that there is funds, not everything we need, but there are funds that the city has for us to do the pre-K stuff. At
If you
least,
could
I can find
get that
out.
detail and send it to the
Sure.
full committee, because we
Absolutely,
hear different things, but fire
Yep.
suppression's gonna cost something.
right.
Where is that money coming from? And is that where you
So-
say, they must have a
Yeah.
pot of money for that
Yeah, that's definitely our money, the fire suppression piece, yep.
on
They've
their
been put
side?
aside on their side.
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying, so there's gotta be a line item in the council that says that.
Yep.
But there's also the 750,000, and you gotta find it just by, you know. So
Sure.
I'm curious, because we're a year or so more behind where we were from last March at Spencer Board and with the pre-K discussions. This isn't, we can't even start to do any work until the fire suppression's done, which was supposed to be done by December of last year.
Yes.
I'm not off on that, right?
No.
So we have time to either do something different, or where we're gonna get the money, how much is it gonna cost? So I do think we should look at it. the piece of the, moving the rooms, I think we should look at that as soon as possible, because there's some valid suggestions on
Absolutely.
where, how we're gonna fill up the PA building. You know, we've spent money on buildings that are not filled, with offices. So I think we should just, keep on plugging, but understand that we don't necessarily see full solid plans of everything. How many pre-K rooms are we gonna have? How many do we have at Conley? What's the long-term future of pre-K in general? So those are my concerns. I think I've had conversation with the superintendent about it. I'm sure this is not new information, but we need a more comprehensive look so that we're aware of what's happening, and money's gonna run out at some point with some of these things, so
I agree.
I yield. Thank you. Thank you for the update.
Thank you. On to, update on mold issues in the district.
So, again, high humidity, excessive moisture entering the building, so, we just started our, summer programs, and, obviously there's bodies there, doors open in and out with all of this heat. Those are the items that we battle. Our buildings are, we have dehumidification going in all our buildings currently. We started putting those dehumidifiers on as soon as the temperatures started to rise, and then humidity comes right along with it, but that we're doing in every building. We are still mixing our cooling and our heating to make up for a little bit of the lack of dehumidification. So there's only 2 buildings in the district that have dehumidification built into the systems, the state-of-the-art Watson and Durfee High School.
Say the art was.
It's the most up-to-date building, it's even got more stuff in it than Durfee does. But it is, that building has total building dehumidification. Durfee has the same thing. So with both of those buildings are doing it, is they're cooling the building, but they're also taking out the humidity with a separate system. The ultimate goal is to eventually have this in all of our buildings. Until that happens, we have the units that we bought, 25 of the, I call them the heavy-duty piece. We have smaller units in the classrooms. We have a middle-sized unit in the classrooms. Classrooms we had difficulties with. And then we have this larger unit that usually sits in hallways, or if it sits in classrooms, they're a quieter unit than the ones we rent, but it sits and we open doors in between classrooms to dry them up. We haven't had the wet floors as of yet, which, find a piece of wood. And what we are doing between mixing that temperature of heating and cooling at the same time, we have the dehumidification units that we didn't have this year, last year at this time. We're currently not renting any units. However, if the summer continues down this road and the temperatures, we may have to rent some units if we can't purchase them. They're hot commodities right now, and they're expensive. That's where we stand on that particular piece. We're doing the cleaning in the classrooms currently. We've got I think a total of 56 movements going on in all the buildings, between classrooms moving from floor to floor. Classrooms were moving, teachers were moving from building to building, and all of those things are forcing us to change what we do and how we do it in the rooms besides summer school. So the process is a little messy this year. We're all over the place when we're cleaning up, down, sideways, so to speak. And that's something that we normally don't do. It's a very organized cleaning. Normally right down the hallway, up the other side of the hallway, then the hallway's the last. We're jumping around a little bit, trying to move these teachers in and out of rooms, moving the pre-K classrooms, out of, I think we moved 7 total, 6. 1 from Sylvia and 4 from,
Thanks.
that's 5, I think. Yeah,
5.
5, yeah. So moving those out, we're redoing those classrooms first, the ones that we emptied, And then we'll be bringing new furniture into those classrooms to set up whatever classrooms are going into open spaces. And that's happening up and down in most of the buildings. We do have some rug removal that's gonna happen again this year, not as much as we did last year. But we do have some rug removal, putting down VCT tile. We do have a grant that we received for 2.9 million to work on the green school, which it's, you know, it's very, very needed in that building. The controls, so part of it is controls. Another one is a heat pump chiller, which is state of the art, which is why we got this grant, because we're doing decarbonization in that building as much as we can. And then eventually those boilers will go when we can provide a heat pump setup for heating also. We do have a lot of work going on at Sylvia and Spencer. So it's probably 6 buildings under construction right now, and some minor stuff, doing some changes at Westall also. But that's where we stand. And on the high humidity and the mold piece, we are controlling the temperatures as much as we can, and we're monitoring it. You know, the systems that we can monitor, the ones that we can't monitor automatically, we're monitoring, you know, with a daily check of classrooms and humidity. That's happening in 4 of our schools right now.
So when will we know if we need to rent the units?
So right now, everything is covered. Everything we have is covered.
Okay.
We will bring on 10 units at the end of the month, and we will scatter those throughout a couple of buildings, just because of that's when we normally get the August 1 is normally when we get that, so a couple of weeks we're gonna get those units. And we shouldn't need more than that, because that'll drop off 2 in each of the buildings we have issues with. And by
just
then we'll
thinking
be
the
close to summer school being done.
Proactive versus the
But
reactive, right?
they're
Okay,
already,
they're already going.
yeah, they're already set up,
Yeah.
and we've already put a hold on them,
Yeah.
that we will take them at that time.
So my only, we had a terrible summer last summer, and we all learned a lot by it. Mold mitigation was exacerbated by the extreme humidity last summer. It almost killed my grass. It almost killed my arborvitae trees. I had to treat them. So it was, the heat wave was killer, and now we're getting more humidity even this upcoming week.
Right.
We're gonna get high humidity this week. The only question I have is, we're not mad magicians or anything, but is the custodial staff feeling the urgency of this issue in each of the buildings that they're working on?
I have to say that the custodial staff has risen to that occasion. They know what they went through last year,
Yeah,
and they know how difficult that was.
Yeah.
There's been thousands of dollars spent in our buildings, whether it be the simple things, you know, changing a ceiling tile model, whether it be insulation changes in the units, and changing the way we heat and cool the building. Mind you, our set temperatures last year were between 68 and 70. It's much too cold, so we can't maintain that 68 to 70. So we're running anywhere from 71 to 73 in the buildings. Totally changed everything, and we are mixing. We're mixing heating and cooling, the filter changes are happening 4 times a year. We didn't change that. What we have changed is beginning of the heating season, they're going back into the units to do another vacuuming of the cells, and that cleaning, and then obviously our regular changes. When we're changing filters, we're doing some other things in there. We're looking for visible signs. If there is anything, they're wiping that down now, as opposed to, you know, the way we didn't do it before. As I said, we changed a lot of insulation last year. We do have about 4 rooms this year that we're changing insulation in. And some of the unit ventilators, there was some parts on the older ones that we couldn't get, so we had them manufactured. So We have some pieces that we're manufacturing at machine shops to keep those units alive until we have the ability to change those. Tansy is one.
So there is a sense of urgency
There is.
among the
Amongst
staff.
group, yes.
Thank you, I yield.
The, when you say the ACs are running, didn't the guy tell us one time that the ACs are in essence like dehumidification, like,
So
so you ratchet it up when it's needed and
So
then you
you,
kind
yeah,
of,
you try to, so what we're doing is we're trying to modulate them so that, because you automatically wanna turn the AC up when it gets super humid. And you are taking the water out, but you're not, you're basically, you're chilling everything. The ground is never gonna get cold enough, so you sweat, the ground's gonna sweat. And all our buildings where we had our issues, first floors, because they're in the ground. So we're never gonna get that ground cold enough that it's not gonna give us an issue. Slippery floors, things like that, doors open when kids are walking in and out, holding doors open when kids are walking in and out for a long period of time. So by heating the air and cooling it at the same time, it's drying that cold, really cold air that feels a little too cool. 68 degrees was cold. And it was, you were comfortable while you were in it, but I'm gonna tell you that created more problems than it was helping. It really did. And changing that temperature made a big difference in the building. I can see it now. We feel it now. I feel it in this building, and you know, I have the tendency that the air conditioners were at 68 and things like that, and you can feel the difference as soon as you walk into that room that it feels cold. It doesn't feel comfortable, it just feels cold. And there's a little too much moisture in the air, so.
and so at one point years ago, there was word out there that somebody said, don't turn the air on to save money. You know, at some point, like, I think it's different than what you just said.
Yeah.
But that's also not happening, I'm
No.
assuming, like, we're not just trying to.
We're regulating the buildings from trying to keep an even temperature year round.
And then the mold detectors, that was a source of conflict last year, that we
The
said we were
humidity.
putting them in.
Yeah.
Are they in, are they reading?
So they're in,
Like, how is
they
that
are
working?
reading, we're changing batteries now because a few of them weren't reading, but they are reading. And the temperatures are hovering in the 50s. I'd like them lower, but they're in the 50s. And on a real bad day, they're going into the 60s where we don't want them. You know, we had 70s and 80s. So green is still an issue. Green is still giving us heartaches, but we've got dehumidification, a lot more units there, and we'll put as many as we need. Sylvia is better. Spencer Borden is better, and both of them have new chillers, so that's made a difference. So now we can regulate with the new chillers.
But there was little, whatever you call them,
The humidistats.
are that only a green, or was that, did we
So we
agree
have
to
them
do
at
those in
Green,
Fonseca?
we have some at Spencer, we have them at Laterno. I'm not sure if I have them at Fonseca, I may have them in spots, I don't have them school-wide.
And those don't, if I recall, they don't, you have to manually look at them, that's not
Right,
like
so
a
what's
computer
happening
program.
is the custodians are doing that, so the custodians are going around every morning doing the stats.
So you have some data on what
We
is
do.
there, what's not.
Exactly,
Uh,
yep.
I think some of the concerns I have are more that we had a major issue, and then the people that are working there, I don't necessarily know that they feel confident or even know enough about what's happening.
Right.
And I'd feel to say the same thing with us, like we get limited updates, but I think more regular updates would help make everybody feel better, including us, including the staff.
Mhm.
With that being said, we had an issue with the union president writing us an email. So what, do we have anything on that, like the room was gonna be tested?
So we
My
cleaned-
summary in it,
we
we cleaned it
inadvertently,
and,
so as I said in the email, that's my fault for bad communication on that one particular piece. We did send a lot of emails back and forth, okay, but the actual day that room got cleaned, and it shouldn't have been, we should have left it for them to test it. So we were waxing floors and they couldn't get upstairs in that particular suite, so that was, the room that was gonna be tested is in the old library, we call it the library suite now, so there's a bunch of different rooms in there. They couldn't get to that room in order to do the test that they wanted to do, which is not a normal test. It's not a regular test that we would do for air quality. It's a totally different test. It's a
But
medical test
I
as
guess
opposed
my-
to a.
I didn't really understand the exact issue, but by cleaning it and waxing it or whatever, did that, let's say that room was contaminated, and by cleaning it and washing, waxing it, whatever else happened, did that now give a false,
So that's,
Sense
that
of
was the
like a-
concern.
that's
That
what I
was-
thought the concern was.
Right, the concern was is that we clean the room and therefore it's gonna test clean. Well, we clean all the rooms. And if there's an issue that's not necessarily, I mean, we're waxing floors, we're wiping everything down and sterilizing everything. If that condition comes back, it's not gonna matter that that wax is only a month old. If there's a condition that's pre-existing in that building, for whatever reason, it's still gonna be there. We're just cleaning, with spot cleaning, you know, touch points, but cleaning, wiping everything down, wiping books, the counters. If there's unit ventilators, all of that stuff's being done. With the library suite, we still have rug in that particular area. So the rugs weren't shampooed yet, so it wasn't a true, we didn't do everything in that particular suite. So there was work that still needed to be done. But again, that, as I said, I didn't communicate to the lead in that building not to clean that area.
and
That
then
was
they
gonna
put
be
in there,
tested.
we refused to pay it, and they had to agree, but was there, like, is that false or?
So
Yeah.
it's the testing that we do for the air quality testing that MTA has also done, they bring in their people, we have our people, we've compared results. There's an individual who was requesting a different test for personal reasons. And MTA said that they would do the testing, so that's what it was.
But I guess it begged the question when I was reading it, to say, when we did the test that we traditionally do, what
Yes.
was the results? Was it clean?
So we hadn't done
We
that
hadn't done that
area
area.
because and we offered to. We said, we'll do our testing, and they said, no, we don't want the general testing. This is a specialized test based on a person's, personal medical condition that they wanted a very specific kind of test done.
I guess in hindsight, it would have been better if we just did our testing.
Did
that
our
we felt-
test anyway,
Because
yeah.
at that point, we
And we
would
will
say,
be.
we did our testing was clean, you wanna do extra, go ahead. But at this point now, it's sort of like they're doing it, we didn't want to, almost like it makes us look like we weren't trying to help.
I see,
And then I'm reading the email saying, we're trying to help the person go to a place that is safe for them. HR probably should have been, or at least somebody else, because it wasn't just you. Other people knew that this was in the works. So it was unfortunate that we get the email. I guess there's nothing we can do about it now, but I would probably say we should do our test. at
We're
some
gonna do
point
it, yeah,
anyway,
the test's already scheduled,
And
in
then
fact,
even
it
if
may have
it's-
already happened.
Because two good tests are better than none, I guess, if, but the bigger picture of the mold, I think we just need a more regular, hey, this is what's happening. We just learned information from the subcommittee that we got 10 extra humidifiers on August 1st that we're purchasing, like,
Right.
we have X amount that we purchased last year, so that, like, it gives everybody more calm that says, we're on it, we're taking it serious, all the things you just said. And a memo would, to us, to the union, to the principals, to me, would make a world of difference towards people saying, we're not gonna be in the same mess. So I appreciate the update, and if you need more of those units, I think you should have the ability to buy as many, rent as many as you need to, because we can't wait for subcommittees and full committees, that's an emergency. If something starts going, those numbers start going through the roof, I'd rather have rented more dehumidification to prevent than we did.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is that, we haven't done the testing that we were doing, like, all last summer and things like that, we haven't done that. But we don't have any, there's no evidence of mold right now in any of these places. So I know there's there's some concern, and I don't disagree with you. I think that if we just say more, and we're actually giving accurate information, and we don't leave it up to people to make conjectures, I think we would benefit from that. But we don't know of a mold problem that we're not communicating, that's not what's happening. And so, and we have started testing, and you said it might have already been done. And we will share those when that information is available.
I had one more question, I wrote a note. The clutter, remember we went to the green school and that clutter, is that not happening across the district, or we still have issues with people that are saving too much?
It's,
So we just had this, discussion today around, so the guidelines that we sent out, coming out of Health and Safety Committee that we shared, and then lists of what the room needed to look like at the end of the year for teachers when they packed up their things, so that areas were available for cleaning and things like that. There are some issues that are being uncovered in the summer, and so those are being addressed, and then we know that when we get back to school, it's going to be with the, the same list that we shared mid-year, all of the reminders of what the expectations are, making sure there's an opportunity for health and safety committees within schools to kind of observe in classrooms, be part of kind of the local accountability within a school, and just pointing out to teachers as reminders, hey, don't forget, we're not supposed to do this, not supposed to do that. And then are being able to take additional steps so that when people still, they've gotten a reminder from their peers and they're still not doing what they need to do, that we're sending, that we're leaving them a note with a reminder and kind of, being a little bit more, being proactive, but then also being more in terms, I don't wanna call it progressive discipline, it's not about disciplining people, but helping people to become more disciplined in terms of what we need in classrooms so that everybody can do their jobs.
Right, and I agree wholeheartedly, everybody should be on board with this, but I don't think it should just be our administration, I think the MTA should be on board with, if there is progressive discipline or whatever the
No, of
heck you're gonna do.
course,
MTA should be aware that
And they
you are making the moves to.
Health and
right.
Safety Committee,
Right.
I mean, it was a joint venture in terms of creating the original, this is what the classrooms need to look like, here's what's
Right, right.
allowed, here's what's not allowed. Some of that was through discussions with, the fire department and what we could have and what we couldn't have, so all of that was shared with schools. And it was done again in collaboration with health and safety, and so that's how we'll kick it off in the school
Good.
year. I think health and safety with MTA presence will continue, and they've been supportive. People who sit at the table are like, yeah, we need to do this, we're gonna help people get this done, so I think that will continue to be collaborative.
The only
And
thing
it's
I would
better.
say,
And
the
it's
only thing I
better.
would say is it's probably better. At some point though, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And what I saw
Yeah.
last year at the Green School was unacceptable. I asked at the time, what was the penalty for the person? Enough. So I would like to get a report to the committee on any room that does not meet those standards that we sent out by school, and the principal of the school needs to take action. And if that means they get suspended, they get whatever, do whatever you have to do. Because we can't have another duplication of last year, and people go, oh, well, maybe it's better. No, the bottom line is if I work in a classroom and he's my boss and says, you have to do the following. You can't leave all these boxes here. You can't leave clutter like this. And he's my boss, and I continue to leave that clutter there, then I deserve to get suspended. Or something, serious action, and we need to support you, and them not coming down on you when you do that action, but I've had enough of, what I saw at that Green School was unacceptable. So, as far as I'm concerned, as one member, I support you coming down on them, because once you do that once or twice, they're gonna take you and Mr. Pacheco serious. Are you?
Yes,
Yes, so I just wanted to follow up. I agree with my colleague there. Dr. Curley, do the principals understand the sense of urgency in regard to the mold?
They do.
And so they're translating that to their full staff.
They do, and we're trying to make sure that they feel a sense of urgency. Had a discussion with Mr. Pacheco around, again, supporting it to make sure it happens. What does it look, is it a different experience for an educator when on that univent, if we don't want anything on it, what about, getting a sticker that says, don't put anything on this vent, right? No, because the last thing we wanna do is like, have people forget, or think, oh, I didn't think you meant this. No, be really crystal clear.
Gotta be clear,
Be able
yeah.
to identify where the vents are, the intake vents and things like that in classrooms, so that we can put some signage high on the wall that says like, there's a vent here, don't block it. Making sure there's a reminder in terms of like, you need to be 3 feet away from this vent and,
Yeah.
things like that. So I think as soon as I know that when we're in a good place and we know we've done all the things that we need to do to support people to do it, then people need to be held accountable for doing it. I mean, that's where we need to be to start the school year.
I mean, this is what we learned from last year. Last year, it was tough going through that issue last year, and so we learned from it, and I think urgency is the key, and everybody pitching in and helping. And mold is something that you alone can't control, he alone can't control, we alone can't control. It's collective. We all need to be on it together. I yield. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. On to new business. Is there any new business, Mr. Agia?
Just a quick, I know we talked about this at the last meeting about, we were closing the Northeastern Avenue, and we had a senior
Yes.
displaced issue. Is that rectified? What is the?
So currently
are we going
there-
from 3 to 2, or?
So currently there is, I'm using that senior to sub-seniors right now. When that ends, then yes, we will be going down to 1. We'll be losing
Well,
1.
we're gonna be losing 1.
Exactly.
If you can just
Right.
get us some sort of
Sure,
timeline on
Yep.
that, when there was a issue with the union and
Right.
negotiations, but
Yep.
we can't, as Dr. Curley said, if we don't say what's happening, people
Yep.
can create their own narrative of what's happening, so.
I think the term is displaced senior is what the union, the verbiage that they used with us.
Yeah, whatever it
Displaced
is,
senior,
I think if we follow the
Yep.
process,
Yep.
and you have 3 and there's only 2 spots open.
Right.
There's a process for how you go down to
Right.
the lower seniority person, or whatever the wording is, then.
Yep.
Thank you. Are
You're
you?
welcome.
Mr. Corey?
I don't know if this is in our purview, but I just wanted to suggest just a brief moment of silence in regard to what happened last night at the Gabriel House for us, just to share our thoughts and our feelings with all that, our fire department colleagues and our police department colleagues in the city. Is that an acceptable motion or something that we can
I think we can just
do
do it.
that? Just do that, yeah. We just have a brief moment of silence for that. Thank you for your
It's very
consideration on
thoughtful,
that.
Mr. Corey.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Motion adjourned?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.